a professor sentenced to life for so-called separatism. Now his daughter tells the real story of what happened. Welcome back to China Uncensored. I'm Chris Chappell. For decades, the Chinese Communist Party has demanded that all ethnic groups in China assimilate to Han Chinese culture, or more specifically, the modern Chinese Communist Party culture that rejects religion, tradition, and regional languages. That's what's happening to the roughly 10 million Uighur people from China's Xinjiang Autonomous Region. Among them is Professor Ilham Tohti. For years, he was an economics professor in Beijing. He also ran a website that sought to bridge the cultural divide between the Uighur people and Han Chinese people. For that, he was arrested, and he's now serving life in prison on charges of inciting separatism, even though he never advocated for separatism. If you think that's crazy, wait till you hear what happened to his daughter. Shelley Zhang sat down with his daughter, Jewher Ilham, who fled China and now lives in the U.S.
Thank you for joining us, Jewher.
It's a pleasure.
So can you tell me about the last time you saw your father?
The last time I saw my father in person was 2013, February 2nd, at the Beijing International Airport. I was accompanying my father to Indiana. My father was invited by Indiana University as a visiting scholar, and I was just a freshman college student, and it was my winter break. My purpose for coming here was to just stay for a month, help my father settle down, maybe cook for him, and then travel with him.
You weren't trying to stay here. You just
I wasn't planning to stay here. I just packed my suitcase for 2 weeks' clothes, and I was planning to buy the rest of the clothes in the U.S. But at the airport, my father was stopped. We were actually stopped at the passport scanning process. That was the last step. If my dad's passport was scanned successfully, he would just get on the airplane and we could have left the country together. But he was stopped and taken away by 4 to 6 policemen, security men at the airport. I can't remember exactly because I was really nervous and shocked and didn't know what was going on, what I should do. We were taken to a small room together and we waited for hours and hours waiting for someone who is higher level to give the staff order to let us leave. But there was one staff and came in and said, "Your father cannot go, you can."
Did they say why?
They never gave us a good reason. My father kept asking them. We have legal status in China. We have every document ready. We have the invitation letter. We have visas. Why aren't we allowed to leave the country? I've never done anything illegal. Why am I not allowed to leave? But the staff just told him, if you're allowed to go, you would have gone by now. Just wait. Be patient.
Mm-hmm. But they said they weren't going to detain you from leaving.
Yes, in the beginning, they didn't even know I was my father's daughter. And they asked, "Who are you?" I said, "I am his daughter." "Where are you taking my father?" Oh, he said, "Oh, you're his daughter, then you follow us." So I was taken away together. They asked me, "Do you want to go?" At that time, I did not want to leave the country at all. My only purpose for coming to U.S. was to accompany my father. If my father was not going to make it to the U.S., what's the point of me leaving? So I refused. I said no. I actually said no at least 5 times. They asked me 5 times, "You want to go or not? Your plane is leaving. Don't say that we are the ones who didn't allow you to leave." And I said, "Of course I'm not leaving. Why do you even ask?" For me, it was an obvious question, an obvious answer. But my father looked at me and said, "I think you should go."
Wow.
I started tearing up. Why? Why are you abandoning me? Why are you trying to let me abandon you? And he said, "Look around you. This country is treating you like this way. Do you still want to stay here?" I was just 18. I was a teenager. And I went to boarding school and I lived in a bubble for my entire life. For me, those kind of things, what happened at the airport, like just it basically didn't make sense in my brain at all.
You weren't expecting anything like
Yes, my dad kept saying, "Oh, we might be tailed by some Chinese government officials." I used to think my dad was just being paranoid, suspicious all the time, suspecting people all the time. And when he says stuff, and I'm like, yeah, of course. You know, annoying teenager. At that moment, everything started making sense, and then I knew my father was never lying, and all his questions, his concerns were actually true. I felt really ashamed for at least few years. I felt ashamed for not being there for my father, not supporting him enough at that time.
But your father, was he trying to shield you from what was happening to him? Did you know that he was being like surveilled and all this stuff?
Whenever my father took me to a shopping or let's say going somewhere when we drive, my dad always look at the front mirror and say, "Okay, we're being tailed again." And I used to say, do you think this is an action movie or what? Dad, you're not that important. Nobody's going to follow you. I used to say joke to my dad like this way, and my dad just didn't say a word. Sometimes I went to boarding school in high school, and when I got back home, I found an empty apartment. Actually, many times. I never really questioned the reason. I even for a while, I actually thought my father left me alone and went to travel by himself. Even though my boarding school was very close to my home in China, but my father insisted in sending me to boarding school. He said, "Oh, your brothers are too young. They might bother your studies," and then...
And high school is a very important time in China.
Yes. So I couldn't wait to leave home for a few years. I wanted to stay with my peers, with my friends at school. I was so excited for it, and I was too excited that I forgot there's something wrong behind it. Mm-hmm. Or I just didn't want to pay attention to it. I chose to ignore it.
But I don't think you should blame yourself too much, because I think your father probably wanted to keep that from you, right?
Yes, but I just thought if I was more supportive and if I didn't argue with my dad so much, if I didn't just blame him so much, he would have less stuff on his shoulder. He could have felt more relaxed, and then he already had enough on his plate, but he had to worry about me. I complained about him always spending time in front of his computers, always spending time with strangers, always spending time with journalists, and he never spent time with me. Do you know what he chose to do? So I kept complaining that he only focused on his computer. He actually moved his computer to my bedroom. So he would type and post articles in my room. And he forgets about time. We still don't talk. He's in my room. I'm on my bed doing my homework. He's typing in front of the camera. We don't talk for hours and hours. And then it's his way of, okay, I am spending time with you.
I'm here.
Yes. He tried to find a solution. It didn't work quite well, but he was trying to be a good father.
What was your dad doing on the computer all the time?
He created a website called Uighur Biz. In China, social media platforms like Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, they're banned. And searching engines like Google also, it's banned. And the Chinese media is obviously censored by the Chinese government. So there weren't enough information left for the Chinese citizens to explore, and not many people knew the truth or get to have access to all these information. My father believed all the misunderstanding is coming from not having enough information, knowledge. Misunderstand means you didn't understand it well. That means you didn't get the correct information. And if you don't have enough information, how are you going to get the correct information? My father wanted to provide this platform for people to create understandings, gain understandings between each other.
So was this specifically for Uyghurs, or?
Not only Uyghurs, actually, it was written in many other languages as well. They had different in English, Chinese. I think there was Tibetan as well. I'm not quite sure. It was a very long time ago, and I was just a teenager. Anyone could post on it. Han Chinese could post on it. Uyghurs could post on it. Anyone, as long as they wish to do so. They could write articles, comment, they even can have their own forum inside the website. So and post pictures.
Like a platform, like a news kind of hub, all these kind of things.
Yes, and you could share anything. And Xinjiang is so far away from mainland China. People don't get to know what is happening over there, since Chinese government is not planning to share information of what is going on over there. And people in Xinjiang, how they're treated was directly caused by the Chinese government, and they're getting those negative things. For them, their stereotypes they have made us stereotypes for Han Chinese. And the Han Chinese in mainland China, they have this stereotypes of Uyghurs that were given by Chinese government. So they don't have enough knowledge of each other. And if you have no enough knowledge of each other, you always think the other side is an evil other side. And my father was trying to prevent that from happening. My father was trying to create a bridge between Han Chinese and Uyghurs and other ethnic minorities. And you know how bridge is, it's connected. If you're connected, you have less problems. It's all about communication, right?
So that was your dad's website. That was what he was working on.
Yes, and he spent hours, days, nights just to post things, manage the articles. With the time passed, Chinese government realized this website had gained so much attention from not only inside China but also overseas. My father researches the data he had collected for the past few years during his researches. Also, those researchers are not the information the Chinese government would want the overseas people to know.
He's an economist, right, your father?
Yes, he was an economist. But he had degrees he studied in different fields.
So your father was posting dangerous information online from the perspective of the Chinese government.
Dangerous as the population, the exact population of Uyghurs, or what's their perspective of certain policies. Dangerous information as this. I guess in Chinese government's perspective, my father was trying to brainwash everyone that Uyghurs are a peaceful minorities in China. Yes, and I guess my father was trying to brainwash people that we need to make a good relationship with each other.
This is the man that the Chinese government imprisoned for being a separatist.
Yes.
And he's saying we need to get along.
Yes, and my father never mentioned a word about separating the country. And he was accused for being a separatist. He had never mentioned a word about separating the country. I'll have to state that 10 times. He had never mentioned that.
Let me take you back to, so you kind of grew up in this environment. Your dad was doing this, and you kind of knew, but not really knew what he was doing. And then suddenly, like in the Beijing airport, there's this wake-up call, and your father is telling you to leave. Did you understand that he meant like leave for America and don't come back, kind of leave?
I think none of us knew at that time what is the next step. He I don't know if he was saying it to make me to go at that point, or he was actually thinking that way. So he said, okay, just go at least, and if you don't like it, come back after a month. That's what he said. And he said, go check it out. If you don't like it, come back then. That's what my dad said. Then I kind of, okay, maybe if I go and come back, everything will be fine. But it wasn't like that. When I arrived in the US, I couldn't reach my father for almost 3 days. After 3 days, he was released. So according to my father, he was arrested for more than 48 hours at the airport, and he was beaten and questioned. He said, no matter what I say in the future, no matter what I tell you, if I say come back, I don't mean it. Stay there.
Oh my God. Yeah.
I would rather you sweep the street in the US than you coming back here.
How did you feel when you heard that?
I just cried. I couldn't say a word. I just cried. For me, I loved my school. I loved my friends. I loved my classmates. I loved everything that I had when I just started my freshman year, and everything was fresh, new, brand new to me. And I got along with my teammates and my dance clubs, and everything was going so well. And I just couldn't accept the fact that I have to throw that entire life away. And I didn't speak English. What am I going to do in the US?
So you didn't speak English. You were by yourself in America.
Yeah, and I had no money. I didn't know anybody. For me, what am I going to do here? What do you want me to do here? Are you kidding me? It appeared to me as it's something ridiculous. And even though now I think back, I still think it was ridiculous. But that's probably the best decision my father had ever made for me. And I am so glad I listened to him. I listened to his advice at that time.
So you managed to stay in the U.S. You started going to school here?
Yeah, so I was very lucky enough. So our flight, my flight, was supposed to be me and my father. The seat next to me was empty for the entire 14 hours. I landed in Chicago because there's no direct flight to Indianapolis. So I landed in Chicago. I spoke no English. I only knew a few words. They asked me, why your visa is J2? Where's the J1? I said, my father cut, gun. And that's what I did. I didn't know how to say shackled. The staff at the Chicago airport apparently thought I was suspicious and said, you follow me. So I was taken to another room, a small room, just like the one we were locked up in China. We were taken to the one in Chicago. I was taken to the one in Chicago. I waited there for hours and hours. So more than 30 hours, no sleep, no food, no water. So I waited there, and people started talking to me. I had no idea what they were saying, and they didn't have a Chinese translator for me. And one person, I guess, she lost her patient, and she said, "You go back to China." That I understood, and I understood, and I didn't know what to do. And she did this. Do you have anyone to call? And then I realized before I left, I had a name card in my pocket. I took it out. I was so lucky. It was the person who invited me and my father to Indiana University. It was his name card, Elias Burley. He happened to work in the government before, and he called the government, and they accepted me and allowed me to get into the country. So that's how I'm here. Without him, I wouldn't be the person who I am today. Elliot helped me a lot, and he took me under his wing. He took care of me, treated me like his own daughter. He taught me English. He was my best friend, best teacher, like a father, an uncle. Yeah. And he only met my father once before this happened, and he sacrificed so much. He passed away 2 years ago. It was heartbroken, and I thought my world was collapsing. And I was like, oh, my father in China is locked up in prison and charged for life, sentenced to life, and my father in the U.S. just passed away. I didn't know what to do. Like bad things come one after another. It was very difficult for a while.
I'm sorry, yeah.
But I'm pretty sure both of them, my father, who is in prison, I'm sure he's praying for me and he's watching over me, and I'm sure Elliot is also doing that too.
Can you contact your father at all, since he got a sentence to life in prison in 2014?
After he was sentenced, I was able to write a letter, and I took a picture of it and I sent it to his lawyer. He read it for my father. He read it to my father, and my father said, "Tell her, let her study well." That's the only thing he said.
That's the most parent thing you can say.
Yes, and that's always what he cared the most. He said, let her study well and take care of her health. That was the only and the last and only message I have ever sent to my dad. That was 2014, and after that I was not able to contact with him. And 2017 was the last time my family members who are in China, their last time of having contact with my father. According to the Chinese constitutional law, all the prisoners are political prisoners are supposed to be allowed to visited by their family members every month. Mm-hmm. Before my family, it was every 3 months. And since 2017, that right had also been
That's taken. Around the same time that they started really ramping up these concentration camps and these things, right?
Yes.
Is your father is he in Xinjiang? Do you know where he is imprisoned?
According to my last knowledge, he was at Urumqi first prison, but we don't know if he had been transferred to another prison room or another prison or to a concentration camp. I don't know anything. And I really wish the Chinese government could release a video or image of, or just simply a personally written letter from my father so I can prove that he's actually alive.
Tell me a little bit about the advocacy work that you're doing now for your father and for Uyghurs. I understand you spoke at the UN?
Yes, I was lucky enough to be invited at UN General Assembly this past September. I have been trying to do anything that could possibly help my father and my community. I don't know if it's helping. I don't know if anything would help. I just don't want to regret. I don't want to one day when I got older and I cannot face my children or cannot face my families and say, sorry, I didn't do anything at that time. So I'm just trying to do anything I can. I don't know which one will work, but anything possible, I will do it.
What do you think about what the U.S. government is doing? They just passed the Uyghur Act.
It's a big achievement for the Uyghurs. Compared to 2 years ago, we had nothing. No attention, no acknowledge, no people had no idea who the Uyghurs were. Now the House passed the bill. Will still need to go through the Senate again and then be sent to the president's desk. But it's already a big achievement, and I do hope other countries can also join the cause, because of course, the U.S. is doing great, and they have been doing a lot of work, but one country's work is not enough, and we need more people to join the cause and be able to make it. That's the only way to be able to make a change.
I understood you met President Trump.
Yes.
How long has your father been gone?
He has been in jail for 5 years, and we don't know how long he will still be in there.
Do you have any communication with him?
I haven't heard about him since 2017 because that's when the concentration camp started. And there was also just a few days before the Oval Office event, it was the Religious Freedom Ministerial event.
The Chinese government targets religion to ensure that people of faith do not answer to any greater power than the Communist Party.
So they seem to really be focusing on the issue of religious freedom in China and the Uyghurs.
Yes, but of course it is directly connected to religious freedom. But I also want to state that it is not only about the religion. But what is happening to the Uyghurs is not completely about the religion. Actually, I would say Chinese government is actually using our religion to get away from what they're what they're doing to us. The Islamophobia is going on around the world, around the globe, and when China is labeling us, when they talk about us, they always label us with Islamic extremists. But first of all, Uyghurs are a Turkic minority groups, and we share the same language, same region. Majority of us, we believe in Islam, but Uyghurs are just as diverse as Americans. Mm-hmm. And so I would say this is not about religion. It's Chinese government is using religion to get away from what they're treating us.
Because to just kind of hide, as a justification is what you're saying.
Yes, yeah. Yes. And it's more about identity than religion, I would say. It's because of we are Uyghurs. It's not because we're Muslims.
Mm-hmm. It's because you're a separate ethnic group and you have your own...
Yes, we have different language, different culture, different writing systems. Even food is different. How we look is different, I think. And of course, our region is full of geopolitical value. So it could be the point.
For an ordinary American who's watching this, and they're interested in helping the situation with the Uyghurs, what can they do?
There are so many things they can be involved. The Uyghurs are still hoping the bill can pass the Senate. Well, it passed the Senate, but it's a different bill the House had signed. There were some adjustments, edits, so they need to repass it. And it will be great if everyone can call. You don't even have to be an American citizen. You can call the city or the states you are living. Call your representatives. Let them sign the bill as soon as possible so it can be delivered to the president's desk. It might sound it's a little step, but it could help. It could be a major help for Uyghurs. It could probably save someone's life. Also, another thing is scholars could sign statements. And they could write to Red Cross, the organization. And also they could donate to different projects that are supporting the Uyghur cause. For example, I've been working on a documentary film over a year, and I have just released a fundraising video. We are wrapping up the film, and we still need some money to be able to wrap up the film. And it would be great if we can have more people join the cause and to be involved. So
you're doing a GoFundMe for the documentary you're working on.
Yes. The movie's name, the film's name is Static and Noise. It will be mainly covering China's treatment to the Uyghurs in China, and actually not only about Uyghurs. It will be covering the other Christian Han Chinese groups, how they have been oppressed by the Chinese government. So it's not only about one small issue, it's about the entire issue that is happening in China. And another thing I would want to state, I don't hate China. I don't hate Chinese people. Actually, a few of my best friends are actually Chinese. But I do against the Chinese government's policy towards certain groups, like the Uyghurs, like the Christian minorities in China, the Han Chinese group, the people who are suppressed by the Chinese government. I do against that. A lot of people would, how can I say it? When they hear that I'm being an activist or some Uyghur person is being an activist to help with the Uyghur cause, they think, oh, this person is trying to do things against China. But we should separate politics. This is about humanity. It is a humanitarian issue. And it is not about politics, it's not about religion. It is about humanity, and everyone should be involved. It doesn't matter if I'm Uyghur, if I'm Chinese, if I'm American, if I'm from any other country, from any other ethnicity or any other religion group. This is not about one person anymore. This is about the entire us. Yeah, so, yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It was great.